Hello, everyone. This is Wayne here, and this is the communication workshop to increase creativity and innovation in the workplace and just all around. So, what I'm trying to do is a community outreach program from my company, which is the Community Coach Workshop Program, and deliver this information to the people who need it most. Oh, let's bring the mic over here and bring it just a little bit closer there. Sorry about that. So again, my name is Wayne, and this is the Community Workshop Program. I'm trying to embrace the community and bring communication skills to the community and the workplace environment. So a couple of things that we'll go over is we've basically got a wheel of life, and each one of those spokes in the wheel of life has valuable meaning. And it starts with yourself. There's a piece of the pie that is you dealing with yourself and how to keep yourself in check and do the positive self-talk you want with yourself. The other portion is how you interact and communicate with those in your immediate circle or in your immediate family. And then the final one, the third and final spoke, is how you deal with people in the workplace, superiors and people beneath you and equals, business partners, etc. All of those have different styles of communication and different needs. And that's exactly what we're going to go over here. So again, there's a community outreach program. That's why it's free for you that are watching here. Ideally, what I would like to do is have people like management and upper HR people see this, and we can actually customize this to your company. Okay. So as we go ahead, and we'll just go ahead and get started right into it here. I'm going to bring that down and we'll get started right into the workshop. So this is, again, the Communication to Increase Creativity and Innovation Workshop. Judgment is the death of effective and creative communication. It's presented by myself, Wayne Winton. I'll give you a little bit more information about me later, but here is the toolbox that we're going to be using. I've created this toolbox because these tools have actually worked for me in my life to be able to help people in the situation that they're in. Okay. So the toolbox really, really does help out. And it kind of helps. It's good for me to give an analogy that relates it to a tool or something that we're building, because communication is built. It really is. You don't just walk in and have perfect communication with everybody that you interact with. It's earned. Okay, so this is the toolbox. This PowerPoint presentation is the toolbox, and this toolbox is kind of the metaphor for it here. This is also not your average Google top 10 list. Okay. There's no point in me wasting your time or you wasting your time taking this workshop, because the things that are available on Google are just that. They're available on Google. Know your audience, listen, empathy, watch your tone, avoid closed questions, mixed communication channels, be respectful, just all of these different things here. Language, ask for feedback, time management, human voice, be a good listener, sharing feedback, be specific. And they're even getting redundant on this. These are not the things that I'm trying to bring to the table here. What I'm trying to bring is a deep dive. We're going to drill down and actually find some real tangible tools that we can extract and have those tools in our tool bag to use for effective communication for you. So again, it's not just your simple basic search. The main agenda here is to also, my vision and my mission in life now is to create awareness about the importance of mental health in a post-COVID world. I want to discuss communication strategies for different types of people and situations so we can get along better and understand each other better. Also, I believe in original content and the human element or aspect of this. So therefore, no AI was used in the ideas, concepts, research, or anything else. All of these graphics were actually made by a graphic designer, my graphic designer, RenPen Graphics. I will post a link down below. So if you like the graphics, you can absolutely use that service as well. And this was designed by a person with a person. Okay, so the ideas are my original ideas. I verify them using the science and the data that we have available. I verify through 3 separate organizations, 3 legitimate organizations, to get this information to you. So it's verified, and it's not just something we just made up. And it's all original human content as well, which I think is very important these days. Anybody can go out there and write an AI program and type into ChatGPT, create me a PowerPoint presentation on communication. You're going to get the same crap that you get from Google. Okay, it's going to be the same top 10 result. It's just going to be a little bit different, worded a little different, and that's it. So I think it's very, very important to make sure that we have that human element still in our education today. All right, so the power of communication. This is data that has been proven through scientific research and put together in an entertaining format for you to easily absorb the information and get a very personal message out to the world, raising awareness about the importance of mental health and your facility, your teammates, your inner circle, your own personal mental health, and the communication with yourself about that, and the communication with your inner circle, and then even further, your communication with your teammates or your work environment. Give you just a little bit of information about myself. My name is Wayne Winton. I've started the Community Coach Workshop Program. It's a community outreach program designed to help spread the awareness of effective communication and strategies. We have strong opportunities built with, strong communities are built with tools and skills, and good people know how to use these tools and skills to build that quality community that people are really after. We also have that I've researched the topics and put the information to use in the real world format to find out what actually works. Okay. This isn't something that we just put together and threw in a PowerPoint presentation for you. It's stuff that I have actually literally used in my family. I've used it for myself, and I've used it for my business. I have to interact with people like business partners. So people that are equal to me. I've got to interact with employees or teammates, people that are subordinates. And then I also have to interact with my customer, who's actually kind of my boss, if you will, depending on what job it is. I work for them in that aspect. Okay, so you'll be able to see all those different things as we move through the program here. And all of these skills have provided outstanding results. So to solve the problem, we must first understand it, as well as understand each other. I really, truly believe that communication is the key to unlock the mental illness crisis that we are currently experiencing and that we are going to continue experiencing for quite some time. COVID-19 did irreparable damage, both to the human psyche and mostly the kids that were in school in that particular time. The kids were going to see the ramifications and the implications of that COVID-19 lockdown and shutdown for a very long time. It is nowhere near over. We are going to see these kids now coming into the workforce. They're entering relationships, marriages, long-term relationships, and that's where the stuff is going to hit the fan, if you will. I'm going to try and keep this as PG as possible because I want it to reach as many people as possible. And I just feel that it's best to keep it as clean as I possibly can for you guys here. But we really have not seen the full impact of what actually will be happening and the true causes and effects of that COVID-19. Humans are social creatures. Any book on psychology, any human behavior, human development, any book that you read, any information, any podcast that is legitimate will tell you that we are social creatures and we need and crave other interaction. All of our mental illness issues are usually based around how we deal with other people, which is also known as communication. So that's why I've put this together. Okay. I really hope that communication is the key to unlock that particular puzzle. I want to extend the mission just a little bit. I am not a licensed mental health professional. I'm not. I don't want to come across that way. I want to lay all of my cards on the table. I want to be 100% transparent with everyone involved. And if you or someone you know has had suicidal thoughts or mental health illness problems or thought of self-harm, please call 988 or the suicide crisis lifeline. If you or someone you know suffers from negative self-talk or other self-harm, we must acknowledge the fallout from 2020 and COVID-19 lockdowns. Okay, these things are increasing, unfortunately. So we just want to make sure we put it out there. If you're having those issues and negative self-talk or self-harm, please contact that hotline. That is going to be your best bet, or contact a licensed mental health professional. I am not one. I do not claim to be one. I am a parent and a person who was able to find the resources and tools to help my family when they were in crisis. And I found them so useful that I would like to pass them on to whoever's willing to listen, to get this out to the community so that you can utilize them to help your situation as well. But I'm not qualified in any way, shape, or form to deal with suicide or those kind of things. So the resources for the workshop, I always try and give credit to the research sources and where the information was found. However, with all the information available today, a lot of people do come up with similar ideas. Okay, so at CCW, we constantly update the workshop information to be as current as possible. So if you've seen this before, like if you're watching this now, and in a couple years, this might be a updated program. In fact, it will be. We'll have new information. Therefore, we're going to have new ideas. We're going to have new concepts, and the program will be completely different. So if you see this offered again, it will most likely be a different program, just trying to keep up with the times. I would like to pay respect to all the prior research and researchers that have provided the amazing data that we can now use to compress years of research into hours. They used to say decades into days. Now we can do decades into hours almost. With the spread of information and just concentrating the information that's been put out there. What took decades to collect and organize now can effectively be learned in a matter of minutes, thanks to quality researchers and the technology to bring them there. So StreamYard, YouTube, the social media platforms, all of these different things allow me to bring this information to you and to spread this information to help you out wherever you are in your particular situation. That's all that I'm looking to do. We're looking to gain the information, to harness the information, to extract the quality information that actually provides results, and strain out and filter out all of the nonsense and the garbage out there, people that are just trying to take your money, people that are just trying to, make a buck off of trying to teach you something that you already know. That is not what we want to do here. I want to have you learn something new in each and every one of these classes. So we're going to use the technology to spread the information, and we're going to go over what is the definition of communication. What is the definition of communication? What is your definition of communication? Well, according to the research that we've done in the dictionary, it is a process of which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, and behaviors. Okay, that is from it's from www.merriam-webstr, so the Webster dictionary.com right there. And that is the definition of communication. So we're taking a known and we're turning it into an unknown. So if you don't like locksmithing, for example, that was basically what I've done for a very long time. That was my original career, and now I'm moving into more of the coaching and advanced learning portion of my career. But I would be able to take a complex problem, like how to rekey a lock or how to pick a lock, and I would be able to explain that in a very simple format so that other people and new students could actually start learning that information and absorbing it, taking something that somebody doesn't know and understand and attaching it to something that people do understand, taking a known and making it, or taking an unknown and making it a known. Okay, just like learning language. If you go to, if you interact with somebody that's Hispanic or Mexican, pretty soon you can pick up a few quick words like hello, hola, hello, hola. Pretty soon you can communicate and you can both say hello to each other. Okay, very, very similar. Connecting a known to an unknown is pretty much the bottom line for the definition of communication. The Egyptians used communication. In fact, we're actually bringing this stuff back quite literally with emojis, right? This is communication, right? They used to carve the symbols on the wall, and then we took the symbols and we turned the symbols into words, and then that was our language, and we kind of used that as our primary form of communication. And now, with the modern age and the cell phone going around and all the texting, now we have reverted back to using emojis as a quality or common form of communication, right? Some of those communications might be kind of coded, but we definitely use symbols for communication every single day. Almost every single person uses some kind of emoji or some kind of symbol each and every day in a message to communicate with each other. So definitely have a lot of opportunities there with that communication style. And we're utilizing it here this day. You know, the Egyptians started it. Here we are using it in 2024. So what can you do without communication? Not a whole lot, unfortunately. Can you express your wants and needs? Not really. It's going to be pretty difficult. Even if I'm doing eye blinks, right? Like if we have established that one blink is yes and two blinks is no, that's communication. I'm communicating with you something that I'm trying to put into my head and tell you what I'm thinking. That is the bottom line for the communication right there. Can you raise your children? Probably not. Not if you can't tell them what to do, what's right, and what's wrong. That's going to be a real difficult one to follow up on. Okay. Communication is one of our most powerful assets, if not the most powerful asset. It is why humans thrive and survive. You'll notice that we, as a species, really start to take off. The more and better our communication is, the better our species thrives. Okay. We can even communicate with our favorite little critters at home. You communicate with your dogs, your cats, your pets. The communication is happening at all points in time. You're telling your dog how much you care when you come home and pet them. When you feed them, you talk to them. We all do these different things. So you're communicating not just with yourself, with other people, using emojis, hieroglyphics, all these different things. You're also communicating with non-humans as well. Kind of crazy to think about that, but we are every single day. And I think we forget about that. So probably the single most important thing that we're ever going to learn how to do. What can you do without communication? What is possible with a higher level of communication, right? So the better we can get at communication and communicating, the more effective we are as a species and as an individual and as a person as well. So some people would say, let's see, what is she going to do? If no one has done it before, it's because it can't be done. So this is a story that's really, really personal to me and kind of the reason that I started doing what I'm doing and why this presentation is available for you right here, right now. What happened is, I'm gonna go through this lady's story here in just a minute. But what my personal story is I found right in the heat of that 2019, 2020 COVID, everything's shutting down, the world's shutting down. Who knows what's happening with our finances? The stock market is crashing. Like all heck is breaking loose. Middle of the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, nobody knows what's going on. Fear is rampant, right? Well, these things started to break down in the home atmosphere as well. We have the kids home all the time. My wife and I are home all the time, and things weren't set up that well. Like there was a lot of issues that we had to work through there in order to get to where we needed to be. And it got to the point where, my kids were having some issues to where the worst, just picture the worst. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm respecting my wife and my children and their privacy, but I will go into this. I will say that as a parent, if you're a parent out there, just imagine the worst, most horrific possible things that you could hear from your family, from your kids. Those things, exactly that. Whatever just popped up in your head, something very similar, if not probably that, was happening and was going on in our household, and that there were some very bad things that were happening, and I needed to grab a hold of this and find out how we can fix it. Most people will throw their arms up in the air and they will say, we need to get a specialist, we need to get these people in here. Well, what happens when your kids won't talk to the specialist? What happens when you get a counselor and your child doesn't talk to them, but they have issues that they need to work out? What happens when they won't talk to the therapist? When you get them a therapist, you get them lined up, you get them online, in person, and they just sit there like this and they refuse to talk. What do you do? Do you just let it slide? Do you let the problems continue to fester? Or do you have to find another solution? When my children would not talk or interact with another professional or with a licensed professional, a counselor, therapist, anybody, we tried tons of different people. It wasn't the individual themselves. Was because they were a stranger. Okay. And so what I found myself having to do is I actually had to go in there and I had to put in the work, because the only person that they would talk to is my wife and I. Okay. We're the only people that they would respond to. So we had to go get the tools to help rebuild this family structure so that we didn't lose anything or anybody in it in the turmoil. Okay, that's what really happened here. And that's what got me to learn these tools, to find them, to capture them, and to put them into use and directly employ them directly into my family. So let's hear this lady's story here from Karen. And hopefully you'll have a little better idea of understanding of what I'm talking about, because she did this with her children in a medical environment. I did this in the mental capacity.
There is a word that I don't like, and that word is impossible. My name is Karen Ayash. I live in Paris with my husband and our 2 daughters. My child became sick, and I wanted to do my best to help her. So I quit my job. I started this gene therapy program. People would say, what is she going to do? If no one has done it before, it's because it cannot be done. Again, this should be impossible. You're not a doctor. You're not a scientist. You're a mother. You're emotionally compromised. I couldn't bring scientific expertise nor clinical expertise. I had to face challenges that I had never thought of. I had to enter into a completely unknown territory with no preconceived solutions, no standard practice to follow. I believe that it is our duty to explore the unknown and overcome challenges. That's why we are here for. We brought a treatment to human patients in less than 5 years, which is pretty unprecedented. We never know what is possible, or most importantly, what is impossible. The bigger the adversity, the bigger the ideas.
Okay, so that is the inspiration, if you will, for what I did. I heard about this, and I can't remember exactly where I heard about it. I think I was listening to a podcast or something online, and this lady had this problem where her daughter had a disease that was considered incurable, and there was nothing that they could do about it. So they basically went to the doctor. Are you seeing the similarities here now? So she went to the doctors, went to all these different people, and they're like, your daughter has something incurable. There's nothing we can do about it. Impossible. Just, prepare for the worst and take care of your kids the best you can, and they're probably not going to make it. As a parent, that is an absolutely unacceptable answer. And I found myself in a very similar situation with the mental health aspect of it, to where no matter what we did, we took the kids in, we talked to counselors, we talked to therapists, we talked to all these different people, and they wouldn't engage and they wouldn't talk to them. Okay. So they would talk to me and they would talk to mom. And so what I was able to do is say, I can do the same thing. I heard this and watched this and heard this lady talk about what happened here. And I said, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to read the books on psychology. I'm going to learn everything I can on human behavior. And so I dove in head first and did a 5-year program that wasn't in college, because I can't just quit my job and all of a sudden become a therapist and counselor. I have to actually get these skills and then do something with them. So I would get these skills and then I would bring them home and I would apply them right then and there. And it would either work or it wouldn't work. If it worked, then I'd say that's a good skill and we'll continue to use that, and we'll use that to beat down some barriers in the future. Bottom line is, here we are 5 years later, and both of my kids are doing amazing. This is absolutely perfect. One is in college, doing doubled up courses. I mean, just an absolute phenomenal student, person, human, phenomenal human being. He's 19 now and doing amazing. My other son is 15 and in high school, and he is flourishing as well. Those issues that we ran into, we were able to deal with them. We were able to get them out. We were able to fix them, and we were able to put them on a much better path using these results-driven tools. So this is why I get so passionate about it, because it really does hit home and it really does mean something to me. So from being a parent made me understand the power of communication. What do you do when your child refuses to speak to a counselor? What do you do when you see your child struggling? And it's going to open up your eyes to the true relationship and how well you're actually teaching them. After trying several specialists that couldn't help, I decided to learn the tools myself and been on a 5-year journey researching everything that I possibly could in the field of human behavior and human development to actually put it to work to really see what we've got here and what's happening. It was the only option left. Being a father, I will do whatever it takes to heal and protect my family no matter what. If Karen can do it with her kids, why can't I? Same concept, just a different outlook on it here. So you can't change people, but we sure can change and understand the world with tools. Okay. So if you want to try and create a change, we all know we've all tried to change somebody. Who out there has tried to change somebody out there? Okay. It probably didn't go over very well, even though you had good intentions. You have the wife who's trying to get the husband to quit drinking so much, or you have the husband who's trying to get the wife to quit being so people pleasy at work, and letting them be a doormat and getting stepped on. And even though we have the best intentions, we find it frustrating because we can't change that other person. All we have is a little bit of influence. And if you have a little bit of influence on somebody, you can really make some very, very powerful changes if you go about it correctly. If you walk in there and you try and, wrestle the situation down and force it and command it, that is the easiest, quickest way to start adding judgment to the communication, and the communication to immediately get shut down. If you want to shut communication down, start forcing, start providing ultimatums, and start yelling and just start, commanding the situation. Offering some ideas is where things come into play, and you have to start by understanding their world. If I'm trying to influence someone else, I have to understand how they view the world and how they see things so that I can interact based off of their needs. Okay. And that's what this does right here. So I have consolidated the great tips and have edited out the poor advice to build this workshop with the hope that it will help you communicate and interact with your family and friends on a higher level with a deeper meaning. If your goal is to change a person, allow me to stop you now. Communication will only influence those who we communicate with. Personally, I believe the foundation for good mental health is clear communication, which is why I have put this presentation and workshop together for you. If we can fully express our feelings without fear of judgment, we can feel free to be ourselves. And that is what we want. The ability to be accepted as we are, free of judgment. And if you can provide that, if you can create that environment and that foundation, that is what CCW, or the Community Coaching Workshop, does. That's what this program does. We take this program and we bring it to a company and introduce this into the employees and teammates. And we go through and we create an environment where we remove the judgment from the application and people feel comfortable being themselves and expressing ideas because they know that it's not acceptable for somebody to come in and make fun of them and crush their ideas. As soon as judgment comes into it, people start retracting and start shutting down. And that's when communication starts to fail. So, tool number one that we learned, okay, tool number one that we learned and that I use is the hammer. The hammer is going to smash things, okay? Judgment is the hammer, all right? Judgment is a destructive tool that can and will most definitely destroy effective communication in almost every single application. If you want to cut off and restrict the flow of communication, start adding judgment to it. It will smash and destroy the trust needed for the effective communication. Judgment adds doubt and fear that can cause people to close off and shut down. That's how you start really closing things off, and that's how you start shutting everything down. Bring judgment into it. If you come into a situation and you don't like how things are being handled currently, if you come in there and start yelling and screaming and throwing things and just throwing a fit and being obnoxious, nobody's going to listen to you. They're all just going to ignore you, and you're going to look like a total and complete out of control idiot out there. Whereas if we come in and say, how do I understand this situation? Ask some questions. How did we get here? Why are you doing this way? Now I have some reasons as to why they did it that way, because they obviously came to that conclusion from one way or another. Now we can take that and we can say, all right, I understand how you got here. This isn't exactly what I wanted as a result. So let's try some different options so that we can get the result that we want out of this. That would be a proper way to go about it. Okay, I removed the judgment from the equation. I'm not bringing my judgment hammer down on them and smashing them with it. As why did you do this wrong? You screwed it up. You always screw things up. You know, with yourself, you can do this with self-talk. The way this works with self-talk is you're always an idiot. You don't eat right. You don't exercise. You don't do all these things. Why am I so stupid? You know, those kinds of things. That's that negative self-talk. So there's that judgment that you can bring with yourself. You can also do this with your family, friends, and inner circle. Remember, there's always three spokes to the wheel. So if you come into your family with judgment, which I was horrible at this, I would do this all the time. I'd be like, you need to do this. And if you just did what I said, you wouldn't have any problems and the problem would be solved. But you can't do it that way, right? It doesn't work. People don't respond to that. So you have to take that and we have to come in and we have to understand. We must first understand before we can be understood. You have to give first. Therefore, when I come in and say, okay, son, why did you do this way? Or what caused you to do this? How did you get here? And what made you think this was a good idea? Okay, we'll get that information back out. Now I can see how you got there. Hey, you know what might be a good alternative to that? Here's X, Y, and Z. This is what I would think of when I get faced with this situation. And here's a couple more options for you in the future. Next time that an issue came up, they would use that tool and they would actually implement what we had said because it wasn't forced upon them. Teenagers are designed by design. They're designed to reject whatever it is you say. Like human nature, so they can break away from the family, really shows that they intentionally reject logic, even though it makes perfect and complete sense, simply to be independent. So we utilize that. All right, I'm going to understand how you got to that point. I'm going to offer a few different lenses to look through and a few different options for you. And then now that's thinking in their head. They get to choose the option that they want to use next time. And they've used one of your suggestions without giving you the satisfaction of actually saying that your advice worked, is kind of how we get to that. But definitely the number one tool and number one rule is avoid judgment. That tool is a hammer and it's going to be a destructive tool altogether. Judgment adds doubt and fear that will cause people to shut down. Judgment is the death of effective communication. Take away the judgment and the fear of saying that the person is wrong or embarrassing yourself. Okay, once you take that away, everything works. It just works. Okay. If you, if you can speak freely about a certain topic, people don't feel the need to lie, cheat, or make things up out of thin air as if they were facts. So if you tell somebody that they're wrong, their initial response is going to be, no, I'm right, and I'm going to provide justification for that because we're going to self-protect. That's what we do. Your brain's going to not let you turn yourself into a liar, so it's going to make up facts for you. Okay, this happens all the time. Not the best way of to go about things, but it happens all the time. So if we, especially children, like you've got children that will lie and cheat and steal and do all these different things. Why are they doing that? When you understand the why they're doing that, because of the fear, and the fear is going to make them not feel accepted, and it's going to make them feel judged, and it's going to make them make up an alternate reality. Okay, that's kind of how that works. So if we simply have a clear structure to the family and provide an environment where we have a foundation, and we build this environment using the tools to where children and adults can speak freely back and forth to each other, and the child doesn't feel that you're going to come down and smash them with that judgment hammer, they're going to talk to you more. They're going to be more involved, and they're going to listen to you. And now the relationship that we've built with my children is they come to us, they talk to us. How many parents out there would love it if their kids came and asked you for advice? And how many times does that happen? Very rarely. It happens all the time for me now. Now, it's taken years and years and years of deposits, good deposits in that trust bank account, because it's a trust bank account that we both need to make deposits into, and we both make withdrawals from, with our children, with our spouse, with our family, with our friends, with our coworkers, and everybody that we're involved with. There's a trust bank account between every single relationship and communication out there. If you're constantly making good deposits, trustworthy deposits, then your account will be full when you need to make a withdrawal. If you're constantly taking out and saying, what can I get from this family? What can I force this kid to do? What can I get out of this employee? What can I get out of the situation? And you're constantly making withdrawals, you're going to be in the red. You're going to be overdrawn when you need to make your withdrawal. And so it's not going to work out very well. We also have to understand that people don't have the same style of communication as I do with my wife and with my children, right? Like, you don't talk to your wife the same way you talk to the kids, or your work environment, or your business partners. I have a different style of communication for every single one of those people by design. They're different people, so it's going to take a different strategy to try and work that out with them. Okay, very important to understand that concept. What worked with my kids is not going to work with my wife, is not going to work with my business partner, is not going to work with my employees, is not going to work with my customer. Okay, understanding this difference is crucial for effective communication. Create a safe environment and watch how influence and communication breed creativity. That right there is one of the best tools that can possibly be used right there. That last little portion right there. That is the essence and the raw juice squeezed out from this workshop. Okay, if you can create a judgment-free environment and remove the fear and doubt from the situation, you will have effective communication, and you will be able to start learning about each other in a positive way. This is the circle of life. Okay, the circle has 3 spokes. You've got yourself. It starts with you and yourself and self-care. Okay, communication with yourself. Then we've got family, communication with your family. And each one of these spokes and sections has to have an equal amount of time and effort. You have to be able to give an equal amount of time and effort to each one of these sections or spokes. Otherwise, your wheel will not be balanced. If your wheel looks like this, you're not going to be able to go very fast. You can't put that on your car and go very fast. Okay, it'll move, but it's not going to go very fast. If it's shaped like this, not going to go very fast. Okay, if it's a nice round wheel, you're going to be able to sail right through. You're going to be able to sail through communication, sail through life, and excel at life. We've got the business aspect or the financial aspect as well. So communication with your superiors, equal business partners, subordinates, employees, and teammates. This is what it's all about right here. Balancing your wheel of life. If you can do that, you will have a well-balanced life, and you will get where you want to go much faster. You'll be able to do 100 miles an hour to that destination, okay, or more, however fast your car will go, or whatever they're rated for. So let's start off with ourself. Okay, we always have to start off with ourself. It's kind of cliche, and I'm sure a ton of people have said it, you've heard a lot of times, but what do you hear in the airplane, right? What's the first thing you're supposed to do? In the event of an emergency, which would be a life crisis, right? You take your life emergency and you put your mask on first. Because if you pass out, you can't help your kids, you can't help your neighbors, you can't help your wife, you can't help your friends, you can't help anybody else until you take care of yourself. Okay, as soon as you take care of you, you can start helping other people. So put your mask on first and start off with yourself. Very, very important aspect of this. How do you communicate with yourself? How do you deal with rational and irrational thoughts? What happens when an irrational thought pops into your head? What do you do? What do you do with that thought? Okay, I push it out. Okay, this is an irrational thought. This is not going to happen. This is not serving me. You got to go. And I literally just get it right out of my head. That's the easiest, fastest way to do it. Not effective with everybody, but that's how I do it. Every single person has those irrational thoughts of the worst possible things that can happen. It is human nature to expect the worst. If I were to describe a scenario with you, like follow me on this, okay? So let's say I'm describing a picture, I'm describing a scene in a movie. Okay, we're watching a very, very new popular movie. It's come out around Christmas time, it's around the holidays, and this family is driving in their SUV, and it's dark, and the dad is tired, and it's snowing, there's a blizzard, and they're driving to the relative's house. Okay, I just want to let you put that in your mind for a second and go ahead and close your eyes and think about it. Okay, family, they're driving, it's late, the dad's a little bit tired, but we're getting ready to show up at relative's house. What's the next thing that's going to pop into your mind? What just popped into your mind? What's going to happen next? Was it something bad? Probably. Yeah. Well, that's the way that the mind works. It's going to put those fear things in front of you first. Nothing bad happened. All I did was lay out a scenario. I just laid out a scenario. Okay. In that scenario, you put it in your own head that there was a car crash or something horrible happened. Okay. Every single person does this. Every single person does this. So we need to use that and harness it and understand it. That's why when I get those negative thoughts, I just push them out of my head. This is negative information. Nothing bad has happened. I'm going to push this out of my head. And that's exactly what I do. Every single person has those irrational thoughts of the worst thing that can possibly happen. It is the fear telling us that things are too good and something has got to give. All the cliches we know. The other shoe's going to drop. The rope's going to end. The person's going to fall. The car's going to crash. The whatever it is, right? The bad thing is going to happen. It's been too good for too long and something is going to happen. And it very well may. And there may be nothing that we can do about it. However, worrying about the future, bad things in the future happening, has no merit in our lives. It's only going to drive you insane because then you're going to be so worried about all of the little things that could happen that you're not going to enjoy the good time that's actually happening. You just said this is so good. Like you're in a good time. The wife's doing good. The marriage is doing good. The husband's doing good. The kids are doing good. Bills are paid. Life is good, right? For the most part. Right now, life is good. We make up all these problems to tell ourselves so that we don't get caught off guard. Okay. That's why we do it. Stop doing that. Start having that positive self-talk. Okay. Take each one of those negative self-talks and turn it into a positive. The cure to negative self-talk quite literally is what are healthy good ways to manage and channel those negative thoughts? The answer has been overused and is really simple. And I know people are going to say, well, that's too simple. It's not. Study after study, book after book, college study and university study after university study, all of the research shows that gratitude is the best strategy for effective communication with yourself. If you are having negative self-talk and negative thoughts going on right now, all you have to do is start thinking about the good things that you have in your life. Are your children doing well? Are they in school? Are they excelling? Are they happy? Do you have a car to drive every day that's warm in the winter and cool in the summer? Do you have a house to come home to where you can relax and feel safe? If you have those things, you're winning the game of life right now. And you're so scared of losing them, that's where the negative self talk comes in. So eliminate it and just wait for the actual problem to happen. Problems are going to happen. The only people that don't have any problems are the ones that are dead. I mean, that's the only way out. If you're alive, you got problems. I don't care who you are. Okay, the most successful person, whoever you idolize and whoever you think is the best human on this planet, they have problems just like you and just like me. So we need to understand those problems and how to get out of that headspace. Gratitude is the cure. It is the antidote. It is exactly what you need to solve those problems. So anytime I find myself in a very dark place, I will start thinking about all of the good things that I have, and I will completely push out all the bad that's happening. Embrace the joy in your life. Friends and family can make you laugh. Enjoy time with them. Okay. Take those moments in for a second. Feel the gratitude and feel how lucky you are to be in the place that we're actually in the here and now with all of these joys in our life. All too often, so many people miss what's happening right here, right now. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. We're not, it's not World War II. Like, it's not any of the bad times. It's not the Civil War. Like, there were horrible things that happened throughout our lifetimes. It's not COVID anymore, for crying out loud. We can go outside without wearing a stupid mask. Like, we can actually do things again. If you need a reminder, just remind yourself what it was like back in 2020 with everything shutting and locking down. Okay? Crazy, crazy times. Now you can use that gratitude to say, I can go outside, I can take a walk, I can enjoy my time with friends and family, I can get on a plane, I can travel. That's the gratitude that you need to start moving forward. Okay? Gratitude is the anchor. Absolutely. Absolutely. Think about gratitude. Think about the gratitude I feel for the person when I'm communicating before entering the conversation. This creates respect and holds higher value for the other person as well. So one of the things that I'll do is, if I'm getting ready to communicate with one of my kids or my wife or a business partner or an employee or somebody at work, I'm going to try and understand, where are they at right now? And what does this person actually mean to me? Okay. What can I be grateful about with this person right now? My employees, they're helping do the work to help expand my business. So I need to bring that back in before we start a communication. And that's going to put that communication on a much higher playing field at a much higher level from the beginning. I'm going to enter that conversation in an elevated state of mind, in an elevated state, in an elevated, attitude, to where I'm ready to go and I'm ready to embrace this conversation. I'm ready to talk about things, and I'm ready to understand their point of view, and I'm ready to listen to them as well. I'm ready to listen and understand. We got 2 ears, 1 mouth. So that means I need to be listening twice as much as I'm actually talking in order to get my point across. And that is one of the biggest strategies that we have, is making sure that we go into that gratitude state before entering the conversation. And this is something I always try and do. So for conversations with yourself, one of the most powerful tools that I heard is from David Goggins' book, actually, The Morning Meeting with Yourself. Okay. Morning meeting with yourself. Morning meeting with yourself has been simply the most powerful tool that I've ever encountered or used or brought into my equation of things that I do, into my formula. Having a morning meeting with yourself. I wake up and literally say out loud, what is my plan for today? Okay. What is my plan for today? And more importantly, how can this go wrong? How can I start thinking about, now I'm not saying negative self-talk here, but what I'm doing is I'm preparing myself to say, well, okay, this client might have some issues that we may need to work around carefully, or this conversation that I may need to have with my teammate or employee might be a little bit difficult, and I need to understand what they're going through right now and what the actual problem is. Okay. I plan problems into the day, not in a negative way, but rather to be ready for the things not going to according to plan, so I can be prepared for them. I don't wish them into my life, but I certainly know that whenever you think things are going to be going well, they may not. They probably won't. Whatever you think is going to happen, there's probably an alternate reality that's actually going to happen. And when that happens, being prepared is the way to get through that. If I'm ready for whatever life throws at me at 6:30 in the morning with the morning meeting, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm not surprised or caught off guard, and I'm ready to take on any challenge that I can possibly run into throughout that day and work through it with ease. Okay. This is the difference. This right here is the difference between people and business owners and managers who run around putting out fires, like they're constantly just stamping out fires and run over to this fire and stamp it out real quick and run it over that fire and stamp it out real quick. Okay. I have problems too, but I try not to have the fires. Okay. We try and put the fires out, and we try not to have the fires come up to begin with. There are problems and there are dumpster fires. Okay. If you're running around putting dumpster fires out all day, there is something that you really need to change with the communication with yourself and with communication with others, because we should not be having fires every day, all the time, that we're constantly putting out. Rarely there's a fire that needs immediate attention and needs me to go over there and really snuff that thing out. And I can and will do that. But hopefully, the bigger idea is let's not have those fires come up in the first place. Not problems, fires. We can deal with problems more methodically with a little bit more time and grace. Fires just need to be put out immediately. Okay. And again, like I said, I try and make sure that I give everybody credit for this. David Goggins' book is one of the best books on self-help and talking with yourself that I've ever heard, seen. I mean, it's unbelievable. Both books. Can't Hurt Me is the first one I'd highly recommend, and then Never Finished is the second one. If you're not familiar with David and his work, he basically went through 2 or 3 Hell Weeks, military training, SEAL training, BUDS training, where basically they just take a human being and grind them physically until they pretty much can't move anymore, to see how strong they are mentally. Okay. He didn't do it once. Didn't do it twice. He did it like 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he ended up doing it with broken legs. So he quite literally went through the most difficult training that the military has to offer for special elite forces 3 times and did it on broken legs, and then went through Army Ranger School on top of it. He runs all these marathon races. The guy has control of his mind. Okay. He has figured out a way how to have communication with himself. Credit for the morning meeting definitely goes to David Goggins. I can't think of a single person who has mastered communication with oneself more than him with all of his accomplishments. I highly recommend hearing his story from the podcast or the book, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. There's no endorsement, like doesn't pay me. I don't make any money from this. This is just one of those tools that I found and really was able to put to use with my situation too. And it just worked. So the other thing we can do is make sure you allow yourself to be kind to yourself. Create a judgment-free place in your own mind and quit judging yourself. This is something that we forget to do, right? We can create a judgment-free environment for those around us, but sometimes it's harder for us to do that for ourselves. Again, we always have that, am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I pretty enough? Does my outfit look good today? Is my hair done right? Is my makeup correct? Did I shave my beard correctly? We humans crave human interaction so much that we change ourselves to better adapt ourselves to interact with other humans better. And sometimes that works out through, like I said, appearance, clothes, just different things like that. And we also do that in other ways because we need to fit in. We need other people literally to survive. Okay. So what happens is then we start self-doubting ourselves. And then, am I pretty enough? Is my hair good enough? Is my beard shaved good enough for people to like me? And this is where that negative self-talk can start. So be kind to yourself, and you are enough just the way that you are right here, right now. If you're learning skills to improve yourself, that's great as well. But you have to be kind to yourself and realize that there's nothing wrong with you and you're not broken. Okay. All too often, people get labels put on them. ADHD, dyslexia, those are ones that people like to stick all over me. And I'm sure I have a lot of those traits and characteristics. I know I do, but I don't let those labels control me. I don't say that I am this way, therefore I can't be anything else. I say those labels are there. I'm going to acknowledge them, and I'm going to make sure that we do something about it. Okay. Be kind to yourself. Communicate to yourself with self-confidence. Comes from within to create true happiness. You're not going to create self-confidence by buying a fancy car, making a bunch of money, or dating a pretty girl or guy or whatever it is you're into. Okay. It's not going to happen. You can't get internal self-happiness from an external source. So stop trying to do that. Every time you try and do that and fill the hole with more crap, it's just making the hole bigger. It's a bigger black hole, and it's going to continue to suck more energy out of you. So stop doing that. Stop the negative self-talk, start the positive self-talk, and start the gratitude. Be confident and strong for yourself, but empathetic towards others. Allow yourself to be kind to yourself. This is how I start every single day with that morning meeting. I know what I need to do. I've got gratitude. I'm expecting problems. I'm working through those problems so I don't get caught off guard. And we create a judgment-free zone towards ourselves so we can communicate with others in the same way. That's really what it's all about. Tool number 2. There's 10 tools, by the way, just so people know. We'll go through them fairly quickly here. Tool number 2, the level. Okay, you have to level your self-control. Remaining level-headed can be one of the most important tools in your toolbox. Self-control, self-awareness is a fantastic tool. The ability to control your biased judgment during conversations, meetings, or communication is one of the most important keys to your success that you will possibly find. You can only control yourself. You can't control how the other person's going to interact. You can't control how they're going to react. You can't control how they're going to accept or deny your communication. All you can control is yourself. That's it. You can only control yourself at all times. So take control of that. Understand it and learn it. The ability to control your own bias and judgment during the conversations, using self-awareness and self-control is the basic foundation to create a quality environment for judgment-free communication. If everybody in the communication is utilizing self-control and level-headedness, then everybody will be able to communicate well because everybody has that in mind. If one person has it in mind and the other does not, there's going to be a big conflict there. Okay, somebody's going to be giving and somebody is going to not be willing to receive the information the way it was intended to come across. So the level is one of the most important tools. You think about building a house. If you don't use a level to build a house, your house is going to end up crooked. Okay, it's going to be all sorts of janky and messed up, and you don't want that. You want to use a level to build your house. You also want to use a level to make sure that you build quality communication foundations. This is so hard to do. However, it's necessary from the communication to flow freely. Judgment is the death of effective communication and creative communication. Now we can create an environment for effective communication with creativity. Managing self-control is the most important part of effective communication. Focus on ourselves first. Every time we run into a situation where there's conflict, one of the first things I do is, am I the problem? Have I communicated irresponsibly? Or irresponsibly? Have I said something to offend the other person? Have I cast judgment and doubt and fear into this communication that I'm having now? And if I did, how do I correct it? Or if I didn't, and I have no ill intent, did they perceive something that I said or did as negative communication, fear, etc.? And if I did, then we have to go back to that step and correct it so that it doesn't happen again. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next one. This is my absolute worst Achilles heel right here, is interrupting and talking over others. I'm sure nobody else has that problem out there, right? Nobody else has ever talked over or interrupted anybody. But this is definitely one of my worst traits, and this is why I teach it, so that I can become self-aware and I can catch it more often. Definitely number one issue in a conversation, meeting, or communication for almost everybody, including myself. I certainly know that this is my Achilles heel and the exact reason why I seek a third party to resolve the larger conflicts that I face, whether it's with a family member, employee, or business partner. One of the most effective tools that I have is to engage a third party and say, look, we have a conflict here and we're both very emotionally invested in this. They think they're right to the bitter end. I think I'm right to the bitter end. And we are just clashing and not getting anywhere. That you're not going to continue to get anywhere. When you have an immovable object and an unstoppable force, it's not going to move. Okay. You're just going to have a big explosion. And that's what most communication ends up being, a giant explosion with nothing getting worked through. We want to go ahead and avoid that and take the minute to make sure that we understand the value of a third party. Okay. If there's a big issue to deal with that I know that will be heated, I table the communication until I can build a plan to set up a proper meeting with a neutral party to prevent rude interruptions so that we can focus on the facts and not really focus on all the other things that come up during a heated debate or communication. Okay. Tool number 3, leverage. The power of 10 questions. This is a very, very important, powerful tool right here. Okay. Use the power of 10 questions. Use 10 questions to help magnify the leverage you just created by asking yourself the following. So let's say I've got a major issue going on and I'm really worked up about it. Most of the issues that we consider so important probably won't even matter in about 10 hours or 10 days, to be quite honest. Okay. So I asked myself, is this going to matter in 10 minutes? How much is it going to matter to me in 10 hours? How much is it going to matter in 10 days? How much is it going to matter in 10 weeks? How much is it going to matter in 10 months? And how much is it going to matter in 10 years? If your problem will affect you for the next 10 years, involving a professional is highly recommended. Okay. Talk to, like, if it's your wife and you're thinking about getting a divorce, probably a good idea to talk to a therapist or a counselor, or at least an attorney before you start going down that road. If you're going to fire an employee or hire an employee, this is going to affect you for probably the next 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, and possibly 10 years. So probably need to put a little more effort into that particular equation right there. Most of the issues we find ourselves going over and over in our heads are things that won't even matter in 10 hours or 10 days. Realizing this will help put the problem in perspective so that it's in a different light to where you can understand it fully. Okay. You want to put that problem into, hey, if this isn't going to matter in 10 hours, why do I care about it so much? Right? Getting a traffic ticket or getting pulled over, right? Maybe you got pulled over and you got a warning. That's going to bother you for the next 10 minutes. It might bother you in 10 hours, but it certainly isn't going to bother me in 10 days, 10 weeks, or 10 years. Okay. I'm not going to care about it at all, unless, of course, it's like me losing my license or something, but we don't have any, we don't have any major violations. So it's really not going to be that effective. Okay. It's not going to affect me that much. All right. So now we've got the second spoke in the wheel. We've got family and friends. Okay. We have to make sure that we put balance in here for these things, such as communicating with your spouse. Do you communicate with your spouse or partner the same way you would with your children? I'm guessing probably not. Okay. So probably a different style of communication. We have to understand that. Okay. Have you ever felt like the person that you are having a conversation with is flat out insane? Yes, me, 100,000%, with a lot of people that we communicate with. I can be the first one to say, my brain can't even comprehend how you came to the conclusion that you came to. Okay. That is very frustrating. And so then I have to back up and I have to learn. And that's where we have to go back and we have to understand, where did this come from? Okay. Where did this start at? Who started this? Where did this originate at? And what is our outcome? Are we taking steps to get towards the outcome, or are we just arguing to argue? Okay. Sometimes that happens. It's extremely common when you have two completely different life experiences trying to use words of our language to express our opinions and feelings is very difficult. This is extremely difficult and often gets taken for granted. Different walks of life create different personalities that we have to interact with. Remembering that we all come from different backgrounds and have lived different lives and have different values is key to effective communication. If you can't understand where the other person's coming from, you will not reach them. Guaranteed, you will not be an effective communicator. Respecting other cultures and walks of life is what allows for a whole new level of quality and competent, meaningful conversation that will actually resolve the issues at hand rather than simply boxing them up for later to deal with. It's the difference between actually dealing with the problems rather than letting them sit on the table and allowing the conflict to stack over time. Okay, so we need to understand the other person has a completely different set of experiences and values. But perfect example is a car crash, right? People, anybody been in a car crash? Okay, I'm sorry that that's happened to you, and I hope it wasn't too horrific. But if you've ever been in a car crash with other people, you will know that you focused on different things than the other people because you've talked about it later. They experienced it as one way, and you've experienced it as a completely different way. Okay, it's important to know and understand that going into the conversation. For having a conversation with others, let's see how it works. Let's start with the same principles as with yourself. Establishing a judgment-free zone when communicating with others to have a conversation is going to be ideal. Your job is to control your judgment of the other person's ideas. That is your one and only job, is to not jump on them and say, that's wrong, you're wrong. As soon as you start doing that, the conversation and the communication is over. Okay, you've lost all rapport, you've overdrawn your bank account and communication account, and that's it. It's over. The moment you start judging the communication, it starts closing off. So one of the things I like to do is pre-frame the conversation. If the topic looks like it's going to be difficult, start off by saying in the conversation, hey, this might be a little bit uncomfortable, but not talking about it will be far more destructive. So let's just go ahead and do this. This is one of my favorite ways to jump into an uncomfortable conversation with kids, spouse, employees, family, or inner circle. You could also establish a safe word for the option to leave the conversation if things get too heated. Just say, I'm not okay. This is not going well. You can have a weird one like banana or something, whatever it is, but have something established to where if the conversation gets too heated between two people, that you can actually go in there and shut it down and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and start closing this down, and we'll reevaluate when we're both less heated. You can also record the conversation to see where you are both making mistakes. Review and own up to your part of that communication that you recorded. Video only shows the truth. Okay, so you're only going to be able to see exactly what happened there. You won't be able to make up that story in your head. Okay, so that's an excellent tip right there. And we'll go into that a little bit more in the future here. Tool number 4 is going to be the pliers, the force multiplier. Get a grip and add a professional third party. For couples especially, our emotions can stack up so much and distract us from the real meaning of the real conflict that we don't even remember what we were fighting for. I mean, how many people out there have been in a situation like this where you got into an argument and you got into it just to win it? And you forgot what you were originally arguing about, and you went back into archaeology and started digging up things from the past that have nothing to do with this equation, but you thought you'd just throw them in there and kitchen sink everything to try and prove your point and win, when winning wasn't the actual outcome. Getting along and getting a resolution, solving the problem was the original problem, not this. Okay, big difference here. It's hard. It's so we can get wrapped up in the details of a previous event that we lose sight of what we're actually trying to accomplish. A professional can help keep you on track. Friends and family are usually not, I want to repeat that again, friends and family are usually not a good option because of their lack of the biased nature. A completely neutral party is best. A counselor, a therapist, or a coach would be the best way to try and use that neutral third party to be able to bring that sense of wisdom in. What happens when we have a conflict that we can't resolve with a complete stranger, right? Or a contractor? We go to court. When you go to court, what happens? You talk to a mediator, right? I've had to do this as a small business owner. Mediators, small business claims, if you're out there and doing business, people are going to sue you. So I had all of these things happen and I won all of them. I was good and found to be right in all of those equations, but I didn't want to go to court. The other person did for some reason. I don't know why. So I was able to prove my case there, but that's what I'm trying to tell you with the recording aspect or having a third party person involved. If we get to conflicts that we can't rationally solve ourselves, a judge or a jury is appointed to make a choice, make a decision based on the facts and do it for us. We're utilizing that same aspect here by saying add a third party, a qualified third party, so that you get the best feedback and advice possible. For those really tough communications, consider adding a counselor, a therapist, or a coach to serve as a professional to keep the conversation on track. They will keep you from veering down the rabbit holes. Well, what about when you did this and this money disappeared? Or what about when you did this and you didn't come home that night? All of that stuff doesn't matter. Keep the conversation moving in a forward direction. A professional third-party mediator will keep you both moving forward. In fact, if you go to court, they even give you a mediator to try and work it out before it gets to the judge and jury. So this is one of my passion projects that we focus on at CCW, conversation and mediation services. So if you do find yourself in that position, we do offer conversation media services to help you reach a place where you'd like to be. Whether it's with yourself, we can help you communicate with yourself privately one-on-one. We can help you communicate with your friends or family or intimate relationships one-on-one. We can help you with your children relationships and communication, and we can also help you in the workplace as well. So we do provide those services at CCW. If you're interested, just look up the information and wait till the end. We'll have all my contact information there. How many times have current disagreements completely been derailed by rehashing older ones? All of a sudden, we're talking about where the kids are going to college and how much that's going to cost, and then something else gets brought up from a long time ago that has absolutely nothing to do with the equation as it is now. I really recommend hiring a professional to have a truly effective communication to build those real relationships. Okay, multiply the force and power and effectiveness by adding a third party to your communication. This is the research and data from mediate.com. Okay, again, I'm trying to source everything here so everybody has an idea of where these things came from. Mediate.com, everything mediation. I like to do as much diverse research and fact checking as possible to obtain the provided information. Open-minded yet accurate and proven information. Okay, we're not sponsored by this reference, so just know that. At this time, nobody is sponsoring anything, and we're not getting paid from them in any way, shape, or form. 4 reasons to call a neutral third party. A neutral third party doesn't carry the emotional baggage of the dispute or persons involved with the dispute to be able to actually help. So they have a non-biased opinion. The interpersonal dynamics are missing if a neutral third party raises the issue to explore it. The third party can ask questions from the lack of communication that might be incorporated coming from a dispute. There might be special conditions that the dispute should not ask about by a neutral uniform party, but a neutral uniform party can certainly raise. Okay, and this is all original from mediate.com. All right, so getting a grip on effective communication continued. The third way is like building a manager or good HR manager. They will have some social insight, expertise, authority, or training on these situations, which tends to calm people down. The more requirements that apply need to be explained by someone who understands them and doesn't just guess at them. This third party can sort out what is fact and what is assumption. So again, that third party is going to help you weed out the bad crap, focus on the good things, and get you moving in a more positive, good direction as soon as possible. Getting a grip on effective communication continued. The controversy won't start with a complaint. Third party brings a neutral authority to the situation and allows the emotional level of the discussion. Okay, and it's going to lower the emotional level of the discussion because people are not going to get spun up so bad. Okay, a complaint that can be stated in a very heated and angry terms includes demands and threats. A third party doesn't start here. Rather, they use an observation or questioning technique rather than a challenge. When you're angry and upset, you can't be as neutral as necessary to get this more desirable outcome. So call in someone who can. There's strength in knowing what the best course of action is. It's not it's not weakness to call in an expert. In fact, it's practically the smartest thing you can do. You obviously haven't got what you needed figured out yet, and it's doubtful that that's actually going to happen anytime soon. Therefore, having that third party, neutral third party, is really going to be the way that you're going to get through that. So how do we solve things that we can't agree upon? In this country, we have collectively agreed that a court system with a judge is the way we resolve non-criminal disagreements amicably in civil matters. Okay, so we have put our faith in the court system and in the judge. I recommend this as the best option because it has been proven to be the best way to resolve conflict in today's society. If you've ever had the pleasure of being in a small town claims court, you know they will try and get you to use the mediator to resolve the conflict before seeing the judge. Both mediation option and the judge are being sought after to resolve the conflict, rely on the trusted third party getting involved to help make a non-emotionally charged, educated decision that seems fair to all of those involved. This provides the importance and the value of getting a professional, trusted third party to remove emotional change and conflict for both of you, for both your family life and your corporate world. Tool number 5, technology. Record your conversation. Number 1, all parties must be aware of the recording and the consent to be recorded. Not all 50 states allow recording. So I'm going to say this as a little disclaimer here. Make sure that if you're using this technique, it is legal to do so in your state. If it's not, don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. So it has to be legal for you to start recording the other person. Now, I believe Colorado is a single consent. So that means only one person in the party, needs to provide the consent for recording. Discuss and agree what happens to the recording after the conflict has been resolved as well. So hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to record this, and we're going to go back over it so that we can identify the errors and identify the real truth. That's all fine and dandy. Whatever you do with that after the fact is going to be what really matters. Okay. We all have a phone or some way to record the video, audio, or both to effectively and accurately document the communication. So it can be reviewed if there are any questions or disagreements about the event and what happened. Now, many of you have tried to resolve a conflict only to spend the majority of the time rehashing the details from a previous conflict in communication. How many people have done this? You're talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, just whap. Okay. All of this archaeology stuff comes up. People start digging up old bones to pick. And now we're off to the races. Because you brought the judgment back into the fold and into the equation, the other person feels attacked. And when they feel attacked, they're going to fight back. Both parties will remember the events very differently. You simply cannot involve a professional third party that can at least display the baseline facts for the conversation so there's no room for lies or error. This can also give the opportunity to take the recording to a mediator or a professional who could help resolve the conflict. What I don't want to have happen here is I don't want people to start recording things either video or audibly, just the sound, and start using it as a weapon against the other person. That is not the design. We are trapped on this blue marble on this planet with the people in it. I'm not trying to make it worse, trying to make it better. Okay. Controversy of recording is understand all of your rights and laws concerning recording devices to protect yourself in your own state and jurisdiction. This is an option for those who understand and agree to this being used as a positive tool to impact your communication, not to hurt or attack the other person. It's okay to not record a conversation if the strategy doesn't work for you. Alternatively, you may take notes to help remember the conversations. Okay, so all good strategies there. All right, so texting is taking notes. For those born between 1981 and 1996, you're considered millennials like myself. While some millennials grew up just before the start of the digital age, most are digital natives. When millennials stay connected with the others digitally, it's no surprise that a study by study PEW Research Center found that 92% of millennials own smartphones. The ease of messaging with others through online apps as opposed to calling over the phone has had a huge impact on the millennial communication preferences. Text messaging apps and emails are a fantastic way of communicating. This gives feedback and a chance to pause, read, and revise the statement until later. It's all in a less emotional state. So when I'm communicating with my kids, they want a text message. They want to get it and read it at their convenience. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but we're kind of coming to a place where it's almost rude to just pick up the phone and call somebody. Like, you should be sending a text message ahead of time, letting people know that you're getting ready to call them. And that's just the way that society is nowadays. Good or bad, that's just how it is. We're all so busy. Let's see here. With millennials, let's see here. The ease of messaging, text messaging apps, fantastic way to communicate, gives us a chance to pause and read. So yes, typing it out, you'll feel good by getting that information out and just kind of getting it out there. And then you can sit with it for a second. It's not like when you're talking to somebody where something stupid falls out of your mouth. I know that happens to me all the time. And something pops into my head reacting from what they said. And I say something stupid and make them feel bad and make the situation even worse. You can actually stop, write all that out, kind of get that energy out like you do, and write your colorful language in there. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll say, you know what? I'm going to take the thorns and the teeth out of this, and I'm going to send a much nicer, more respectful message that still conveys my frustration, but takes out the personal insults, judgment, and attacks from that particular situation. Okay. That also goes right along into tool number 6, which is sleep on it. Okay. Great tool to use here. Great tool to use right here is sleep on it. Okay. Any important conversation that will impact your life long term deserves a rest overnight. I credit all of my best relationships to this one single tool. My marriage, my friendships, my business partners, all accredited to sleeping on it. That every single one of these people, I have been in a situation where I have wanted to type out a nasty gram and something they were irritating, or I was very frustrated and not in a good state. And I would have said things that I didn't really mean and would have needed to take back and apologize for. Rather than saying the things and having the verbal diarrhea fall out of my mouth and kind of make a mess of things, I will wait. I'll put it out and I'll get those emotions out. I'll get that feeling of, oh, I got it out. I said what I needed to say. And then I'll go back and I'll say, look, I really do care about this person. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I need to convey my message, but I can do it in a nicer way. And when you can do that, that's when you can start really salvaging these communications. Write all of your feelings out in a message and with absolutely no filter. Okay, just get it all out. This is a technique used by the vast majority of therapists and psychologists. It feels good to just get it all out. Okay, that's part of the process. This part is part of the process. Just get it all out. You've heard write for the wastebasket, or write for the trash can, or write and throw away. Utilize that here and now. Such a powerful tool. Such a powerful tool. The next morning, you will feel differently, and you'll be able to go back through the message and you'll smooth things out and smooth those rough edges to where it's not quite so toothy and thorny. Okay. Very, very, one of the most powerful tools. If you start implementing that right now, I guarantee you, your communications will start getting better immediately. Immediate action. Okay. The third spoke on the wheel is going to be how you communicate in the finance and business world. Okay, so we all have to earn money. We all have to have a job. Some of us work for other people. Some of us own our own businesses. I own my own company. I've worked for people before, and I have people that work for me. I have people that work with me, and I have business partners. Okay, so right here, finances and career communication with coworkers and people in the work and business environment is very different from how you communicate with other people. Do you communicate with your subordinates the same as your supervisors? Absolutely not. This is a different form and different style of communication. So let's discover some of the differences here. Okay. Communication with superiors in the workplace. Strategies for effective communication and conversations with your boss or people in a position of authority or power. First of all, I like to honor and respect the position that they are in. Much like you have put in the work and effort to obtain your position, they have done the same thing for theirs. Acknowledge it. Give them the respect that they deserve. In order to be respected, you must give respect. One of those old cliches from forever ago that comes back and just simply can't be put any better than how it's already been said. So, with that in mind, maintain respect for yourself as well, and don't be a doormat. Okay, there's no reason that you would need to be a doormat. You can be a respectful communicator while maintaining self-respect. The minute the other person starts attacking you, or you feel like they're attacking you, you have the right to pause that conversation and explore that and say, are you saying that to hurt me? Are you trying to intentionally degrade me? Or what is actually happening here? And then you can adjust that situation from there. All right. Have a plan before you initiate a conversation, such as asking for a raise. So in the workplace, one of the most conversations that's going to be had is employee, employer, subordinate, supervisor. Okay, this is the standard structure for almost every business environment out there. And so what's going to happen is the employee is going to want more money. Hey, I've been working here for 6 months, a year, 2, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. I want a raise. How's that going to go over? Give me a raise or I quit, right? That's the standard go-to, right? That's boiled down to its essence. Well, how could we wrap that in a much smoother wrapping paper so that it doesn't come off that way? Okay, we can do that just by using some of these tools and planning the request. Number one, I'd like to choose a good time. Timing is everything. Timing is absolutely everything. Choose a good time to make the request, preferably not a hectic time. Okay. What happened there? Planning the request. So plan it when it's not a hectic time or when you're trying to leave at the end of the day. So early in the morning would be best. Okay. Ask if you can schedule a day and time to have an important discussion. Schedule the meeting, arrive prepared and on time. State your case and stick to your beliefs. These are going to be some of the effective tools for communication for you between you and your superior. Prepare for questions and a rebuttal. Don't just think that you have this presentation and they're going to say, okay, cool. Yeah, you got a $20,000 a year raise. Thanks. See you. Have a good day. Probably not going to happen. They're going to have some questions. What are you going to do in the future? What's your 5-year plan? Why do you think you deserve this? How much more are you bringing to the table to deserve this? Because I got to have a 10-to-1 ratio here. For every dollar that I pay you, you need to bring $10 back to me and the company so that we can thrive and survive. Okay, that's what needs to happen. When you remain calm and engaged, the communication will go much more smoothly than if you are harsh and judgmental. Judgment and harshness will only cause the conversation to deteriorate quickly. Avoid displaying any verbiage or body language that could be received as irritated, uncomfortable. Remain focused. Okay, you have to remain focused during this process. Listen without making assumptions. Such a difficult thing to do, but it happens all the time when people don't do this, right? Listen to exactly what they're saying. And most importantly, do not make assumptions about what they're trying to communicate to you. Never just sit there and let it stew in your head and say, oh, well, they said I'm not creative and I'm not this and I'm not that. And now I don't deserve the raise, right? They're not going to give it to me. So you know what? I'm just going to blow up. I'm going to toss the game board and I'm just going to leave and I'm out of here. I'm done. Right? That's not a very effective form of communication. Let's understand that a little bit better. Ask some follow-up questions. All too often, when one party communicates a thought, the other party takes it the wrong way. This is exactly where the majority of conversations go from productive and meaningful to hurtful and accusatory by allowing misjudgment of the situation. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me personally. I say something and with no ill will or bad intent, the person who I'm communicating with takes it very negatively. And I can kind of watch their face and I can see it and I can catch it now. But you can watch this happen. I never meant to intend to hurt this person. I never intended any bad ill will in any way, shape, or form under any circumstances. But they took it that way. So now I have to undo that. If you're on the receiving end, what you can do is you cannot take that offense. You can say, I'm not going to get offended until I identify this. And I'm going to ask some follow-up questions here. Okay. Now that things go off topic and the effective communication is effectively over. That's all there is to it. Okay. So tool number 7, very, very, very powerful, important tool to drill down for clarification. This ties in with the previous slide. So if you find yourself taking offense to something somebody said, rather than work it out in your head where you're just going to keep looping things over and over and over again, making things up and creating this story that you want to put together with references and background that you don't understand. Stop doing that. Hard break, hard stop, very hard stop, immediate hard stop. Okay, take a hard stop and evaluate the situation. Ask for clarification at the time, okay? Ask for that clarification at the time, okay? Ask them to explain why they said what they said and work it out before moving on. If you can do this, then you'll keep the effective judgment-free conversation moving in a forward and positive direction. If you can remain in control of your own emotions and ask for clarification rather than casting judgment, you will give yourself the best chance possible for that raise. Hands down, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This will work in all of the categories too. So if you can maintain self-control with your boss, chances are you're going to get that raise. They're the highest chances you're going to get. Nothing is guaranteed, but that's the highest chance you're going to get. If you maintain your self-control when you're talking with your children, your wife, your spouse, or your family members, that's the best chance for effective communication to influence them. Hands down, no questions asked about it. If you maintain control and self-control of your thoughts and get rid of the negative self-talk and add the gratitude to it, maintain self-control when you talk to yourself, that's going to be the most potent and powerful communication you can possibly have right there. Tool number 8 is to measure your approach. Now, anybody who's taken any kind of business classes, business books, workshops, anything like that, what's the number one thing you need to know if you're making progress? You need to measure your progress. If you made $100,000 last month and your goal is to make $10 million, then you need to make a whole lot more. You need to make almost $1 million the next month, right? So you have to understand that, right? You need to measure your progress as you go. Have to do the same thing with communication as well, all right? Communication, always be prepared for the conversation. Do not go in ill-prepared. The old cliche, plan to fail, fail to plan to fail. I believe that was Benjamin Franklin. Who knows where they all come from, but I believe that was Benjamin Franklin. Plan to fail to plan to fail. Simply holds true in this application. I mean, I just could not find a better way to put it. Using tool number 3 in combination with tool number 8. So let's use that leverage with the power of 10 and tool number 8, measuring our approach, is going to be the most effective plan possible. If you have a decision that will affect the next 10 years of your life, like asking for a raise, you must be prepared for any response you may get. If you consider the possibility of the conversation taking a turn for the worst and suddenly your career is now in jeopardy, how can you use the tools to provide and keep that on track, keep that conversation on track, and keep moving forward in a positive direction? We can also combine tool number 8, measuring, with tool number 2 and maintain that level head and self-control at all times. So if you go to ask for a raise, maybe your boss is in a bad mood, or maybe they're just kind of a jerk, which maybe that's the information that you needed. Hey, if I can't effectively come to my superior and tell them that I'm adding value to their company and feel that I deserve to be rewarded for that value, if I can't have an open communication with my superior about that, that's probably not a good fit and not a good place for me to be. That's not a me problem. That's a them problem. Okay. Identifying that will help you understand things better for yourself. Okay. So I would leave that situation and find a better work environment, find a better fit. Now, if they say, well, Johnny, you've only worked here 3 days and you're asking me for a raise, I don't think that's that fair right now. We can't really gauge or measure your value that you're going to add to this company. Now they have a legitimate reason, right? Now they have something that's a roadblock, and you can say, okay, when could we pick this conversation back up? Let's pick this conversation back up in 6 months or a year, after you've been here 6 months or a year, so we can really evaluate where you're at and find out if your pay is really on par with your skill set. Okay. Very effective way to communicate. We also have to understand our own acceptable outcomes. Are you willing to accept not getting a raise in order to keep your job? So I have to go into this and say, I've worked here for 5 years. I'm going to get this raise or I'm going to quit. Those are my ultimatums and bottom line. Now, I'm not going to come in and deliver that, but I know that here. Okay, I know my outcomes. I'm either going to get a raise or I'm going to find a new job. Are you committed to only accepting the amount that you decided upon and willing to walk away from the job if your requirements are not met? So if I want a $10,000 a year increase and that's all I'm willing to accept, and they offer me $9,000. Do I have it worked out in my head? I'm not going to accept that deal. That's up to you. I mean, I would try and recommend being flexible. Making $9,000 a year more than you're currently making is certainly a heck of a lot more than what you're making now. So I would probably accept that, right? But if your goal is set on 10,000 and you're not going to take a penny less, you're going to have to fight for that right. Are you committed to only accepting the amount that you decided from? Okay. Did you get the raise that you wanted or make an acceptable compromise? Did you make an acceptable compromise? Okay. You wanted 10, they offered 5, you got 7,000, right? That's an acceptable compromise. You can work with that. These questions are all part of the planning that has to be done beforehand. For something as life-changing as this, you should be even more prepared than normal. Okay, so I would go over this for days ahead of time. I would have a presentation. I'm going to have a formula. I'm going to role play with other people. What happens if they say no? What happens if they say no, but? What happens if they say yes, but? You have to understand all of those different buts. Put in the work and effort necessary to get the outcome that you are after. Now we're going to flip the script here. Okay, so we're going to flip everything around. We went from subordinate interacting with a position of leadership or management. Now we're going to flip it around, and the person in the management seat is going to be, we're going to look at it from their lens and their point of view. Okay, so managing others is a completely different conversation, right? Depending on your position in the situation. Let's flip the scenario and look at this from the position of the person being asked, or the person that is asking for the raise from the manager, okay? The owner, the leader, or the boss, right? What would good communication look like from their perspective? So what do I want to see if somebody's coming to ask me for a raise? Okay. Would you like the good communication perspective? Would you want to be open and receptive to the communication? Did the person who's asking me for the raise show respect and asking to schedule an appointment, respecting my time for a very important conversation? Are they respecting their own time for this very important conversation? If you come up to me and say, I want to raise or I'm out of here, bye. See ya. I mean, you can't come that heavy. You had to put some thought into it and say, hey, I'd like to sit down at lunch and discuss this, or I've got some time at 3:00 on Friday. Could we have a discussion about the current situation? Sure, absolutely. No problem at all. I will engage with that. Hey, I want to raise now or I'm done. Okay, see you later. That's pretty much how that's going to work. Okay. I've already made up my mind and we haven't even started yet. Right. So a couple things that I would ask is what is the topic and how can I prepare? If somebody asks me, can we schedule an appointment for an important conversation? I would say, what is the topic so I can prepare? The same tools apply, like planning your approach in the position of the leader as well. I'm going to prepare. You want to come to me with asking for a raise, I'm going to have some questions and concerns about that. What is your performance going to do, and how are you going to add to the bottom line so that you can earn that raise? I'm not giving you a raise just because you think you deserve it or you've been here for 20 years. It doesn't matter. If you've been here for 5 minutes and you make me more money than the guy that's been here in 20 years, the person that makes the most money is going to be the one that gets the raise because they're adding the most value. In fact, you being the leader holds you to an even higher standard, and that's where a lot of people fail too, and I really want to focus on that. If you are in the position of leadership, you should be holding yourself to a higher standard because you are the position in authority in that situation. So you need to maintain even more self-control than anyone else in that situation. So what are the acceptable outcomes from this point of view? Okay, what are the acceptable outcomes from the leader or the boss? As the boss or manager, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to hear the other person's needs and concerns? Well, if you're an effective leader, you should be willing to understand that, most definitely. Are you and the company able to meet their needs for this raise? Is it possible? Are the finances there? Is the cash flow situation able to support a cash flow positive and, give that raise and still maintain cash flow positive? Are you willing to meet their needs, and do they deserve what they're asking for? If they're not adding the value that they're asking for, if they're asking for a $10,000 a year raise, they better be bringing $100,000 to the table. And for those out there that are listening to this, those must seem like out of whack numbers. Trust me, by the time I pay payroll taxes, I mean, I'm paying, that's 10 grand a year. I've got to pay a ludicrous amount of money to get that extra 100 grand and actually apply it to something. Then there's income taxes. There's everything gets taxed. So every dollar that comes in, if I send my employee out and I invest $1 in them, like they're an investment, right? I put $1 into my employee. I expect them to bring 10 back so that I can pay them the dollars that I owe them. I can pay them the payroll taxes to the government. I can pay the income taxes to the business. I can pay the business taxes, and we can pay the suppliers and pay all of the financial things that help that business out and still be able to invest in them. That's when I'll say yes. Okay. So it's like a 10-to-1 ratio. They need to be asked, they need to bring in $10 for every $1 additional that they ask for. So if they want $1 an hour raise, they better tell me how they're going to bring 10 more dollars in that hour to get that raise. So from that ownership point of view, that's where you want to be. Tool number 9 is the lens of empathy. Okay, you need to understand the other person. And if you don't grasp this concept, you're never going to be able to communicate well. If you don't have the ability to put yourself in their position, you are going to be the one who is left with the problems in your hand here. Okay. Have you been on both sides? Use empathy to understand how the person in the other position may be feeling. Can you see how your words and actions might be interpreted? Are they interpreted as good? Could they be interpreted as poor? These are all effective things that you need to consider. Can you see how the exact same words can be misinterpreted as something you didn't intend? This can happen all the time, okay? I say something. I say, I am working with you, Johnny, and I know you want $10,000 a year raise, but here are my concerns. I think some of your customer service skills need a little bit of improvement, and I would like to see some higher sales and tickets invoices from you before we could do that. Now, they could take that as, I intended it as, you asked me for the raise, and as soon as you check these boxes, you can have that raise, okay? I'm saying yes with contingencies. They may take it as, I'm not enough. I'm not selling enough as it is right now. I'm not doing enough as it is right now. That's not the way to really take it, okay? I didn't intend it that way. That's how they're taking it. So I'll do a little check, right? We can pop in and do a little check. Does that make sense to you? And do you agree with that? Do you understand how if you do X, Y, Z, you can have Z, Y, and A, right? If you do these things, you can get the raise, okay? Can you effectively see when this person, when it happens to this person, and how to clarify that? Okay. Do you know how to move into that and clarify your own situation? I always take myself and shut down and stop, do a hard stop, and look at it from the other person's point of view. Ask questions like, does that make sense? Is this okay? Do you understand? Right? And you want to get head nodding feedback. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. I asked, you confirmed. We're now communicating as immaculately and eloquently as possible and effectively as possible. Okay. Do you understand? Yes, I do. These are good things to have. So what lens are you looking through when you're having this communication? Understand that judgment can enter the communication from either party, from the sender or the receiver. The sender can unintentionally send you a statement that can be perceived as judgment. The receiver can also perceive the judgment when it is not intended, just like the situation that I explained. The success formula for clarification is, when in doubt, ask for clarification. Did you mean X, Y, Z, or did you mean A, B, C? Get a confirmation, identify it, pin it down, and take care of it. Now, don't let a misinterpretation start the stacking of bad ideas and bad communication, because once you do that, you'll break the bridge and you will not be able to maintain or even rebuild that communication. Number 10, and this is one of the most important ones right here too, is We've all heard the golden rule. How many people out there have heard the golden rule, right? You've heard the golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated, right? That works. It really does. However, I'm different from you. You're different from me. Your needs, wants, and experiences and life experiences are different from mine. Therefore, there's only half of the equation. The golden rule is only half of the equation, okay? The other half is understanding what the other person wants, okay? Unfortunately, it's only half of the equation. The other half is understanding what the other person wants and how they want to be treated, okay? They may have different needs and wants than you do. Advanced communication skills involve understanding other people's needs, wants, and values. The sooner you start understanding and grasping this, the sooner you will improve your communication by drastic numbers. Not 10%, not 20. I'm talking 50, 60, 80, 90% improvement in communication simply by understanding that the golden rule is only half of the equation. And somebody may not want to be communicated the same way you communicate. Okay. If you communicate with yourself a certain way, they may want something completely different. And knowing and understanding that and utilizing it is absolutely the most powerful tool that you have in your toolbox. All righty. So, what are your thoughts on this? Could you use these tools in your next communication? Would this really help out? Okay. With the environment we have created throughout this workshop, do you feel that you could communicate much more freely and effectively? Mission accomplished. That's what we wanted. If you think that the tools in this workshop and program, if implemented properly, could create and build that judgment-free zone, that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, then that's a win. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted here. This is the exact same platform that I use for families communicating over issues that they can't agree upon, for couples going through a rough time, and for companies wanting to create a environment for innovation and creativity to work more freely together. This is the exact same thing. We take these tools and we'll customize it to your company and your ecosystem and your environment so that we can build that platform so those employees can have those creative ideas and feel comfortable bringing them to the table and sharing them with other people without the fear of judgment. This program and these tools build a foundation to remove the judgment from the equation so people can communicate effectively, clearly, with ingenuity, with creativity, and more efficiently and effectively all the way around. So if you're taking this workshop and you'd like to apply this to your company with your technicians, with your employees, and with your teammates, I would love to do that with you. All you have to do is reach down in this comment section below and find my information, get a hold of me, grab an email address, or shoot me a message, and we can take this and we can actually bring it directly to you and customize it for you and your company to help that situation, to create those magnificent ideas and improve innovation throughout your company. With a closing statement here, I'd really like to go back to my mission, which is to create awareness about mental health and mental health matters. It's easy to see that post-COVID has left a new epidemic. Humans are social creatures who need interaction and communication. Mental health havoc caused by the lockdowns will be felt for decades to come. My message and mission is simple. Please treat your mental health just like your physical health by talking to a professional and keep tabs on your body and mind to make a better, kinder, more understanding world to live in for everybody. When you have a pain in your arm or your leg, like you fall down, you scratch your elbow or you break your arm, that's your body's alarm system sending pain to your brain to say, we have a major problem here. You have your arm is broken. You really need to go take care of that. I'm going to express pain to the point where you go take care of that and force you to go do it. Anxiety and depression are the exact same thing for mental health. If you are having a ludicrous amount of mental health, anxiety or depression or anger or rage, Those are mental health alarm bells. Just because we can't see it and we can only feel it, you see your arm broke in half, that's going to be a pretty good indicator. And the pain, okay? Harder to tell up here. Anxiety and depression are mental alarm bells. Please seek help from a licensed medical professional, or find a coach, or find somebody, counselor, therapist, coach. Don't go to friends and family because they're biased and they're not going to help you. Okay. It was actually put to really, really great one time. And I really want to share this last piece as well, is people pay their therapist or counselor for advice. And a lot of times they don't use it. Their coach, whoever they're paying a professional for advice. And a lot of times they don't like the advice they get, like eat right and diet and exercise and all these things they don't want to hear because it's going to require work. And they don't take the advice from the paid licensed professional, but then they take their advice from their friends and their buddies who say, don't work so hard. You can eat that, whatever. It makes you feel good. And they'll kind of console and soothe, right? While that feels good, it's not going to get you where you need to be. It's not going to help your mental health facilitation, and it's not going to help you in general. It's only delaying the inevitable, and it's actually reinforcing negative thoughts and negative patterns. Get in to go see a qualified or competent coach, licensed mental health professionals such as a psychologist or therapist or a counselor of some sort. Please do this. If you want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to talk with you as well. So just look for my contact information and reach out. Okay. Thank you. You can scan this QR code. These are all of my social platforms. I would really love if you followed me on social media. We're going to put out a ton of great information. We're going to constantly be coming back to this. We're going to have more communication. We're actually going to break this down. And this was we're at about 2 hours now. This is my long version. I can condense this down to about an hour. But I also go into other facets of communication where there's an hour-long program on relationships between couples, right? There's an hour-long presentation on how to deal with family members and communication. There's an hour-long presentation on communication in the workplace. So we can only expand on the tools that we've already provided here for you. So you can scan that QR code, show up there, drop me an email, fill out an application. We can help you out there. If you're interested in having us build and design a platform and workshop for your company, for your teammates, for your business, we can do that. We can help out. We can do it for couples. We can do it for people in a relationship, married couples. We can also do it for friends and family as well. If you've got family members that are not getting along, we can help out with that as well. These are all my socials. Facebook, Wayne Winton. Instagram is Wayne Winton Official. X/Twitter is Wayne Winton CCW. YouTube is my name, Wayne Winton, and TikTok is Wayne Winton Official right there. So thank you so much for your time. I've really, really enjoyed this with you. I really hope that everybody has got something out of this, and I hope I have delivered. I really enjoy the time that you have spent with me, and I really don't overlook that. Your time and the last 2 hours, you can never get that back. And I really, truly hope that you appreciate it. I hope that I appreciate your time that you spent with me. And I hope these tools can be implemented for you in your home, in your personal home and business life as well. Okay. CCW offers personal customized workshops for your specific needs, one-on-one personal situations for communication with self, couples and family sessions to have a neutral third party to help resolve deep-rooted family issues that seem impossible to move past, along with customized workshops and roundtable discussions built for businesses and companies to ignite creativity and inspire innovation. And with that, I will leave and close this particular workshop. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really value that, really honor you, and I hope we get to speak at some point soon. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your day.